Hey there! Did you know that this podcast has a supporters club? By becoming a supporter of the show, you can gain access to exclusive content and play an active role in helping the podcaster continue producing the content you love. See the link in the episode description for more details. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Welcome to the new Disruptors podcast. Here's your host, the wild man behind the mic, Bill. Welcome, everybody, back to the Disruptors. And boy, do I have some disrupting news for you. A story that just broke in the school system in the state of Washington. Now, to get the full facts and what's going on, here's a special clip.
Superintendent Karen Cloninger was arrested alongside Executive Director of Student Services Andrew Schoonover on Thursday morning. They both face charges related to the obstruction of the investigation into the alleged sexual assault incidents. I've been speaking with parents who say that the arrests aren't enough. They want to see the entire school board held responsible.
Finally, someone's being held accountable for their actions.
Longview Superintendent Karen Cloninger and Student Services Executive Director Andrew Schoonover were arrested and accused of covering up sexual assaults at Mark Morris High School.
They should have placed her on administrative leave immediately.
As the administrators await their day in court, parents say the district should have taken action long ago.
I mean, it's upsetting and frustrating, not just for my kids, but for these kids too.
On January 29th, police say Cloninger knew a student had been dragged into the varsity locker room, pinned to the ground, and his clothes partially stripped. She's charged with tampering with a witness, failure to report, and obstructing a law enforcement officer. Investigators say they were told by Cloninger that allegations of assaults in the school had been handled internally. They accused the superintendent of discouraging discussion of the incident among staff who raised concerns with police regarding mandatory reporting requirements. In February, a victim's dad called police, leading to the arrests of 2 teens at the school. In the months since, parents have been demanding answers from the school board and Cloninger herself.
And the board has chosen to support the staff members instead of support the students and the families.
At this point, it's got to be a total recall of the school board, unfortunately.
Jess Waldo has 2 kids headed to Mark Morris and has even worked in the district herself. But she says she felt her concerns fell on deaf ears, and she's planning on moving her kids out of the district next year.
I think that the lack of responsiveness, particularly from the school board to make any kind of action during the investigation, felt frustrating, despite so many people reaching out saying that we would like her placed on leave, knowing that they were allowing people who were under investigation to continue to make decisions for our children was very upsetting and concerning to me. I don't know that there's any coming back from this point.
The 2 students arrested face multiple counts of rape and go to trial in July. Cloninger and Schoonover are in court on Friday. Reporting from Longview, Julia Lopez, Fox 12 Oregon.
Mark Morris High School is a public high school in Longview, Washington, and Karen Cloninger became superintendent of Longview Public Schools in February 2024, according to reporting from KUOW. So she had been in the role for about 2 years when all of this came to a head.
I find it very tough to imagine that the superintendent of schools, after being elected and put into that position to take care of our children in an educational environment, could overlook the fact that a rape was going on, abuse was going on, and then turning her back on the sheriff's department by lying to them and saying, oh no, that's really not happening. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine how many other staff members may be involved in this situation? Yes, if I was one of the parents, I'd be asking for the school board to be impeached, removed, and start all over, getting rid of the cancer that evidently has struck that school district. Here's another factor we've got to look at also. Is it a possibility that there was other people that influenced this decision upon the superintendent to be mum's the word, to not allow this to get out into the public, to keep it off of social media and not talk about it while we cover it up and find an scapegoat that we can drum out of the district quietly without having any problems? As we all know, neighbors and people that are taxpayers of the school would be very concerned about what's going on. Everyone should be concerned about what's really, really, truly going on in their schools. Now, here's another cut explaining the problems that they're having at Mark Morrison High School with a superintendent who evidently isn't doing her job correctly.
The alleged abuse involved members of the Mark Morris boys varsity basketball team targeting younger junior varsity players. The assaults reportedly began around Thanksgiving of 2025 and continued through late January 2026. The alleged abuse involved members of the Mark Morris boys varsity basketball Court documents list 4 victims, 2 who were 14 years old, 1 who was 16, and 1 who was 17. One of the 14-year-old victims told investigators he had been pulled into that room at least 6 times. According to reporting from The Reflector, which obtained police records through a public records request, one victim said the hazing started with humping and twerking and escalated significantly from there.
Now, I also want you to keep in mind that this activity over this time period was not reported by the school. The only thing that triggered a final investigation was the factor that a parent called into the sheriff's department and lodged a complaint about the handling of her son's bullying and sexual, as far as I'm concerned, privacy being erupted into a massive cover-up of misbehavior. Now, here's the arrested youth's story.
2 male juveniles, ages 16 and 17, were arrested on February 19, 2025-6, according to KOIN. They were each charged with second-degree rape, unlawful imprisonment with sexual motivation, indecent liberties with forcible compulsion, and indecent exposure. Both pleaded not guilty at their arraignment in Cowlitz County Juvenile Court on March 3rd, and their trial is set for July.
Now, you're probably asking, what is the responsibility of the school under the law in a situation of reporting? Let's take a listen to this cut.
Under Washington law, school officials are mandatory reporters, meaning they are legally required to immediately report any allegations of child abuse or assault to law enforcement.
The kicker to this whole conversation is that this alarming activity started in January of the year of 24-25 and was not reported or taken care of until March of 2026. It doesn't make any sense, does it? Does it really, really mind-blowingly, as a parent, say to yourself, this cover-up has gone this far? And what reason could it actually be to figure out why this should not have been reported immediately? And when there was some investigation done by outside sources, why the law enforcement was not brought in, and the superintendent taking the attitude, mum's the word. I'm sure that there was a lot of, well, you will not say a word, you'll keep your mouth shut, by the superintendent's office and some of the staff, showing them that she is the emperor and that they will immediately lose their jobs, or a point will be applied to them that will not be reversible. This is, to me, what I call professional blackmail. But that's just a podcaster who doesn't have a degree in journalism or in law enforcement. Also, I'm just a grandfather that wishes my children and my children's children will be safe in schools. You know, the schools that we're paying hard-earned money for the kids to get an education so that they can achieve their goals for the rest of their lives. Maybe we've forgotten about that in schools. Maybe it's got to the point now where we got to fill the chairs and follow the 1% out of a million actual school children and protect those rights and continue to push trans children and continue to indoctrinate our children because the government feels we can't parent any longer. This is a traumatic moment, one which we must all take in not a just moment of, oh, well, it will go away, but we must now start a conversation, draw the line as the taxpayers and the parents to get this type of organization rolling to stop covering up what they're up to. It's just disgusting. But let's take a look at how long this actually ran.
Mark Morris High School staff and district leadership were made aware of allegations involving physical and sexual misconduct as early as January 29, 2025-6. Police didn't open a formal investigation until February 9th, 11 days later, and only because a parent of one of the victims contacted law enforcement directly.
Now you're wondering, was there any action taken whatsoever? Was it a situation that because of a student talking to his teacher and then being told, well, you're on the basketball team, mum's the word, and actually going home and confronting his parents after this atrocity was being committed, that something should be done? Well, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? Yes, there was people in that high school that had a conscience that were working to do their job to protect our children in a safe environment of learning. The vice principal took action, and here's what happened next.
When the assistant principal at Mark Morris, a man named Charles Paul Beckel, learned of the incidents on January 29th, he immediately launched an internal investigation. He interviewed victims and suspects. That investigation went on for nearly 2 weeks. And critically, he kept Cloninger and Andrew Schoonover, the district's executive director of student services, fully updated on the details. And according to the affidavit, despite knowing, Cloninger explicitly opposed making a report to law enforcement. One staff member told police that she even took issue with Beckel's use of the words hazing and systemic to describe what was happening. She reportedly said, quote, "I don't want you using that word." That's what investigators allege. And it gets more specific than that. According to court documents reported by KATU, Cloninger told district employees to, quote, "figure this out and to do it quietly and internally." She reportedly warned that it would otherwise be a, quote, "career killer." When a district employee suggested consulting the school district's attorney, Cloninger allegedly replied, quote, "Look, guys, we're not going to put anything in writing on this." And then, according to the affidavit, she went further and said, quote, "We're not calling any attorney because I'm not going to be told to do something I don't want to do." And she allegedly directed the school's principal to tell the basketball team, quote, "Don't talk about this." Staff were also reportedly told, quote, "We're not obligated to call the police at this point," which, under Washington's mandatory reporting law, was simply not true. Reports started circulating on social media, and on February 5th, according to the probable cause statement, Longview Police Department leadership directly contacted Cloninger and asked whether law enforcement assistance was needed. And investigators allege she told them the district had already investigated the matter and handled it internally. So she deflected the police. And then 4 days later, on February 9th, a parent contacted law enforcement directly. That's when the formal investigation began. And what investigators found during that investigation is what ultimately led to Cloninger's arrest.
It is also terribly interesting that when the sheriff's department took action on the investigation, they seized the superintendent's cell phone and got a court order to go through the cell phone and found some real interesting conversations back and forth concerning these allegations and what I consider a true criminal cover-up. Now, let's look at the facts one at a time. Number one, she is a superintendent of schools who has a management control of a district of different schools. Number two, there was a distinct breach and break of the law by non-reporting when she refused to tell the sheriff that there was any activity or action going on, and it was all being handled internally. Number three, the action of not letting the inside staff do, or school staff, a complete investigation and turn over their notes so that they could be thoroughly investigated and presented to the sheriff's department. Now, at last count, there may be others that are involved in this cover-up. We won't know until the trial actually starts. Sheriff's Department is continuing the investigation. I'm proud to say that social media had a hand in starting a communication of what I call action by the parents. It seems that there's been a lot of doubt in this district of what's going on in the leadership for some time, and this just goes to prove that even under fire, things can be, shall we say, slipped under the desk. It is impossible to believe that this woman was reelected back into her job status even while this activity was going on. And while the internal investigation was in progress, nobody really knew, including the resource officer, that there was any problems, because the resource officer never got any information to do his job whatsoever. It was mumsy the word or lose your job. Is this the type of organization that we have in other school districts? Well, maybe we should ask the superintendent of schools what's going on in the state of Washington. He has taken a stand of the students have their rights. He's taken a stance of parents, when the children come to school, are now in the hands of the schools, and they can make the parental decisions on how to raise your child. Is this really what we want in the state of Washington for education? Let's take a look at other facts. Number one, we have the fourth highest paid salary teachers in the United States. Number two, we have the lowest test scores, lower than the graduating classes of Mississippi. So somewhere along this line, there seems to be an imbalance. Now, if you talk to the people at the superintendent's office, those that are allowed to talk, that are not handicapped by the, teachers union, for one of the strongest unions in the state of Washington, which is controlled by the Democratic Party, you'll understand that money has to flow. And to get things done, the voters have to not understand what they're voting for. They don't want to hear about the cover-ups. Of course not, says the rulers of this great kingdom of school districts. But isn't it interesting when you dig into the facts of the following? There are approximately 160 cases of teachers in the state of Washington that have voluntarily retired, swept under the carpet. We would assume because of misconduct in the schools. Of course, there is no actual record of how many teachers, staff members, etc. in the school system have, shall we say, just quit their job and moved on. But we do know out of 160 that there's a strong possibility that the way that this game is played is if you're caught being a sexual pedophile, messing with students in the school or taking advantage of students behind parents' backs, etc., that the school board will do an investigation. In that time period, they will be putting these individuals on extended leave until the investigation is done. Naturally, extended leave in many cases means they're being paid to sit at home. Isn't that clever? If it looks like it's a situation where the law can come in, or there can be some, shall we say, horrible facts brought to the voters and parents of these children's attention, that might not be good for school elections, levies, and things of that nation. That nation of money movement, the nation that moves the schools for supposedly higher educational and strategic, scholastic knowledge, so that our kids can have the best education, be proud of their schools, and march on to leadership positions in our country. No, it is a situation of covering up to protect those that have taken advantage of our children. Records should be kept in the state of Washington, and everyone that has been convicted or thrown out of a school district simply by saying you're on leave, but your job has now been taken by another teacher. So we would suggest to, shall we say, just let this go, that you turn in your teaching certificates and sign a statement that you will never teach in the state of Washington again. Now, if that gets to my desk, I can neatly file it into the locked drawer, file cabinet drawer, and that's all. Parents don't need to know. Everybody's happy, and social media won't have any meat to chew on to destroy our little kingdom that we have controlling kids, students, and education in the state of Washington. It's sad, and I hope that anybody listening here will realize you must take part in your child's education. Be heard. Start a conversation with the schools. Don't just sit down and say, oh, well, and then at election time go, oh, well, yeah, let's see, that box isn't squared in. Well, I'll color that in. Oh, I don't know who that guy. Oh, I'll color him in. Without doing a thorough investigation of who you're putting on the school board. We've got to stop this, and the parents have the right to do so. Schools cannot raise or parent our children. Schools need to get back to education, history, language, spelling, the things that they need and the tools they need to continue on in a successful environment that they will create with their education. Many of them will end up in the trades. Some will end up in college. Some of them will even become the leaders of tomorrow. But we want them to have the opportunity of a good education so they can take those jobs and do the very best of their abilities and not be covered up by school bullying, by sexual identity change, by all the other ruthless things that cover up what's going on in the schools. Be wise, take time, check out your schools, find out what's going on, and make a difference by you starting a conversation. We appreciate you listening to our show today and hope that you can make a difference. Remember, if you keep love in your heart and a vision in your mind as a parent or even as a good citizen of your community, those actions will bring us a better tomorrow for our kids today. Now, here's a word from our sponsor.
Hi, I'm Fat Phil, CEO of Fat Cat Vinyl Creations, your go-to destination for custom-printed t-shirts, hoodies, and so much more. Why Fat Cat Vinyl Creations? Custom designs. You dream it, we print it. Quality you can trust. High-quality prints on premium materials. Unique styles, perfect for events and gifts. My team and I are passionate about bringing your creative ideas to life. Whether it's a single masterpiece or bulk orders, we've got you covered. Ready to make your statement? Let's create something amazing together. Shop now Fat Cat Vinyl Creations.